Good morning. It is Monday morning and I am on my second video. And it's come to my attention this weekend that I may have hurt some of my family members when I announced that I was going to be sharing my story. So, as many bad memories as I have, I'm going to do my best to remember the good as well and share as many good things as I can, just so you can get the true picture of who I was. I had a really close family member come up to me yesterday and say how awful it was what I was probably doing to my mom. And that was never my intention. My intention was to share my story and hope that I can change lives. It was said to me that they hope Izzy never does this to me. And I agree. I hope Izzy never does this to me. And I also hope that I did nothing in his life to make him share his story to help others. And if I did, then I encourage him to share his story to help others. What I'm going to dive in this morning is pretty deep to me. I'm not going to go over what happened to me as a child yet. I'm going to start with my own problems as an adult. Many of you know that I am in real estate. I've been in real estate for 13 years. It was an industry that was very exciting to me. But what I've learned through the journey is alcohol plays a big role. So you celebrate when you do well by alcohol, and you also drown your sorrows with alcohol. And I realized what a big problem it was for my family. It ruined my relationship with my son. It almost ruined my relationship with my husband, and I started seeing it affect my two little girls. I tried everything, I go to counseling, and I'm very proud of going to counseling. I tried cutting it out Monday through Thursday and only drinking Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It worked for maybe a few weeks, maybe a month. I cut it out for one whole month just to prove to myself that I didn't have a problem. But really deep down inside, I think I did know that I had a problem. Addiction runs very deep in my family, from gambling to food to drugs to probably alcohol. So I knew that it was a really bad path that I could go down and, again, become like my family. I went to Mexico one year and was sitting in the pool with an amazing family. My son, Izzy, makes friends with anybody. Honestly, if you've ever met him or know him, you know it's true. We were sitting in Mexico and probably drinking a lot at our all-inclusive resort. And there was a gentleman there with his family. And I said, let's go up to the bar and let's all take shots. And he said, oh no, I don't drink. I quit drinking, a few years ago, or maybe a year or two ago. And I said, oh, that was kind of weird, because we love going to all-inclusive resorts. And one of the things we do at an all-inclusive resort is drink an awful lot. So I thought to myself, well, this is really weird that he would come to an all-inclusive resort with his family. And I wanted to ask him so bad how he knew he had a problem, but I figured that was a really deep question that usually you have to probably be pretty close to somebody, right, in order to ask them such an intimate question. So I decided to wait. I waited a few days, and we were in the lobby together, sitting there with our daughters, and my son, Izzy, and I turned to him and I said, how did you know you had a problem? And he told me the story of going and being at his daughter's games and being hungover and not being a part of the family as much as he knew he should or could be. And he also said something to me that really struck a nerve in me. He said, you know, my wife started asking me if I would go to places with my daughters and them. And as soon as I realized there wasn't alcohol involved, I wouldn't go. You see, when John said that, inside, I was bawling because I knew that that was me, that I refused to go to places with my family that didn't have alcohol because I didn't want to. I didn't want to be around people without alcohol. I thought all the fun that I've had, all the fun that I am, is because of alcohol. So when he said that, I knew I had a problem. And I'll never forget it. I went back in that pool the next morning. I looked at Izzy and I said, starting tomorrow, Mama's never drinking again. And he said, sure, Mom. I went, no, I'm serious. You see, what people didn't know is that week before when I came home from work and I was drinking, I flipped out at my daughters for no reason. And I apparently cursed at them. I don't even remember. I woke up the next morning to my husband looking at me so sad and just saying, do you know what you did to your daughters yesterday? And I didn't know why. I didn't know that I yelled at them. I didn't know that I cursed at them for no reason. I didn't even know what I was doing anymore. And as much as I wasn't getting up and drinking in the morning or drinking at work, I knew what an addiction problem my family had. And I knew that I was one drink away from making the biggest mistake I could in my life, and that was ruining my family. And I can't tell you how many times I probably drank with my kids in the car, thinking that I was fine coming home from Round Table, having fun with them, even though I knew that was where I could drink. I can't tell you the amount of times that I made mistakes while I was drinking. That Friday before I left for vacation, I had two good girlfriends that I would get together with every single Friday, and we would drink every single Friday. But we would have our kids, and I would at least pretend like it was my way to bond with my children, to take half days on Fridays, even though I knew by the time my husband got home that I was probably pretty darn hammered and looking for fights with him. You see, I was a happy drunk with everybody but my family. But there was something that happened when I came home to my family. When I decided to quit drinking, it was the hardest thing for me. But I knew that I couldn't wait for a judge to tell me. I couldn't wait for my husband to give me an ultimatum. This was something that I knew if I didn't stop it now, I was one drink away from maybe going to jail or definitely losing my family. And that's one thing that I have control over, is my family. And I wasn't willing to do anything to put that in jeopardy. I remember going to a girlfriend's house 4 days after I quit drinking, and her sister was an alcoholic, a recovering alcoholic. And I told her that I had quit drinking, and I was so proud of myself. I was so proud of myself. I was 4 days in, and she said, how long has it been? And I went, 4 days. And she said, oh, well, come and see me when you really stop drinking. I had to start somewhere, right? Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. I remember going up to people and being so afraid to tell them that I quit drinking because I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to last, right? I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to keep that promise to myself or my family. And so I quietly told my friends, each friend that I could, I said, you know, I stopped drinking. And they said, well, how long? For how long? And I went, I think it's a lifestyle change for me. But yet again, I was afraid to get it out into the public because if for some reason I relapsed or didn't do it, I was afraid to be that failure that people maybe thought I was. I'll never forget week 1, week 2, week 3, and people coming up to me and saying, but don't you feel great? No. No, the truth is that I didn't feel great. I didn't. I missed it every single day. Every day. Being a realtor, every single function is around alcohol. There's alcohol at every single function, and they get shit-faced. And I didn't want to be around those people. I didn't want to be around anybody that was drinking at that moment because I was so afraid. I was afraid that I would just take one drink. I was afraid that watching them would remind me how fun it was. I used to wake up every Sunday, every single Sunday, and go and have this awful nightmare the day before on Saturday that I drank and I forgot that I quit drinking. You guys, I must have had 50 of the same exact nightmares of waking up and thinking, what did I do? How did I forget that I quit drinking? And I'll never forget when I told my mom that I quit drinking and the nightmares I was having. She said, oh, when I quit smoking cigarettes, way to go, Mom, I forgot you quit smoking cigarettes. That I had that same nightmare. Every Sunday I had the same nightmare that I would smoke the day before and I forgot, which was the weirdest yet coolest thing to hear another story because I thought I was all alone in that. I quit drinking August 14th, 2017. It's been almost 2.5 years, and every day is still hard for me. But every day I wake up and I'm so proud of the person that I chose to become, that it wasn't, again, a judge or my husband or my kids to give me an ultimatum. It was me. And I now see that other people struggle with the same thing I did. And I was asked a month and a half ago by a good friend of mine, how do you know you had a problem? And for me, that's the sentence that changed my life. When John told me his story in Mexico, I knew that I could be a John. I knew that I could be just as close to my kids and my wife as he was if I just made a commitment to myself to cut out the thing that was causing so much poison with my family. And I'm not saying that whoever drinks is awful and has a problem. I had a problem. I couldn't have just one. I looked at people who were able to leave drinks at restaurants, and I was so jealous of those people because I had to finish every single one. And when we go on vacation still and we pass a bar, I ask my husband, why don't you go in and get a drink? Because it still makes me feel better to see other people drinking. For some sick reason, it does. And when my husband says, no, I don't want to drink, it reminds me how big of a problem I had. You see, I can never pass up on a drink, and I can never have just one. My counselor told me before that you have a drinking problem when the drinking's causing problems. Again, you have a drinking problem when the drinking's causing problems. And I'm sorry to go on. I promised I wanted all of my videos to be very short, but this was my problem. And I wanted my family to see that I'm strong enough to tell my own problems on this. And if I can just help one person become alcohol free, if that's their desire, then that's what this is for. And I wish I would have told more people in the beginning. But I I let a